From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your Evening Update.
Cascade Paint and Supply is Reading's oldest family-owned paint store, established in 1953. We are the largest Dunn Edwards dealer in the nation, and most of our products are made in the U.S. Our friendly and knowledgeable staff are ready to answer your questions and help you today.
Happy holidays from Weather NorCal and our sponsors. Have a wonderful holiday season.
Good evening, everyone. Well, at least in the valley, that dreary day, it was drizzly, especially in the morning hours. But today, certainly much drier than what we're going to be experiencing here in the days and even over the next weeks. Then the days to come, that is, and even over the next week. The wet weather pattern I've been talking about, that's going to kick back into high gear starting tomorrow. And we got gusty winds at times as these series of storms push through. Snow levels have been and will be fairly high at least through the weekend and even into early next week, but I am expected to see them drop a bit. Just how low is a detail we're still trying to iron out and get more details on, but it could eventually have some potential travel delays as a result of some of the snow that we do expect to see in some of the higher elevations. So let's take a look at your Krueger's Quickcast, and we're just going to get you through tonight and through the day tomorrow. And as I mentioned, tomorrow is going to be much wetter. Tonight, eventually the rain kicking in for places to the northwest, Del Norte, western Siskiyou, northern Humboldt, even northern Trinity. And then going into the early morning hours, that eventually works its way down southeastward into the rest of the valley, and of course southeast of that as well. So by 8 o'clock in the morning, I think everyone's going to be wet. I think everyone's going to be looking at some form of rain, and of course those winds picking up as well. So you can see where the atmospheric river has been pointed over the last few days, yesterday and today, Pacific Northwest. If you look closely on the satellite image here, you see it just beginning to show signs of shifting southward. That's what we're going to see happen tonight and tomorrow, and that's where that source of rain will be. So let's take you into the midnight hour tonight. There it is, out towards the northwest. That shifts down to the south and east, and by 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning, it's widespread rain across the region. Everyone's seeing it, some heavier than others. And again, notice the snow. It's fairly high, 7,000, 8,000 feet at this point. But already, as we go through the afternoon, a lot of the rain begins to kind of kick down to the south. And we're going to be looking at much drier conditions for many of us through the afternoon. But you can see just the southern portions of the viewing area, Chico, Orville, and I think Willows too. It's showing some pretty intense shadowing, but I don't think we're going to quite see it to that extent. Then, Friday night, we're dry for the most part, right? You can see a little bit of drizzle here and there. And then we have the winds. We've got wind advisories, high wind warnings. The timing of all of these are all different times. Bottom line, it's going to be gusty winds as that main system passes through tonight and tomorrow. We're talking gusts in some of the higher elevations and along the coast in the 40 to 50 mile per hour range. Over 30 mile an hour range for many of us in the valley for tomorrow morning. And you can see the winds will start to subside as that system pushes down to the south and east. So for tomorrow, there you can see overcast skies. Everyone's going to see rain. And I think the heaviest rainfall and most of the rain will fall in the morning hours for everyone. And then going through the afternoon, we're going to start to see that push down to the south. So let's take a look at our 7-day forecast. And you're going to see it's going to be wet each and every single day. Now, this doesn't mean it's going to be steady rainfall for the next 7 to 10 days. It just means that every single day, there will be at the very least a chance for rain. Some days, much heavier rain than others. And that's the case for the coast, the inland areas for Trinity County. Snow levels, again, I'm still ironing out those details. I'm averaging it out around 4,000 feet or so. It could get a little bit lower than that. It may be a bit higher. We'll see. That will, of course, determine how bad the travel will be in those higher elevations, especially in our area. Of course, down over the Sierra, it's a little bit of a different story. So here's what I'm tracking through next week. We've got a series of storms through next week, kind of one after another that'll be kind of hitting Northern California. And we're talking about the potential for flooding and rock slides. Gusty winds at times, as I mentioned, 30, 40, even 50 miles per hour, possible wind damage. And then mountain snow could lead to some travel delays, especially toward the end of next week. Now, I'm going to be talking about all of that in our deeper dive forecast, but first, the sponsor of the deeper dive forecast is Shasta Hearing Aids.
Frank, come help with the dishes. What?
The dishes!
I heard it the first time. I just got back from Shasta Hearing Aids, but she doesn't know it yet. What?
Forget it!
All right, so we take a look at that satellite image here, and this is what I was talking about the last few days. This is where that, really by definition, because that's where it kind of came from, the original term, is Pineapple Express, because it came from Hawaii, and that's exactly where that moisture is originating from, and it's working its way all the way up into the Pacific Northwest. Now, today, most of that moisture obviously was pointed to the north, but we did see some of those clouds and even some weak disturbances, enough to give us a little bit of drizzle out there, especially this morning, even in the valley. But this is all going to be shifting southward. All right, so here's what we've got. We've got the deeper batch of moisture here. That's all working its way up, and you've got the atmospheric river here up to our north, but that will be shifting southward. Now, as I mentioned, the timing of all this, and we saw that in the quickcast, right, is that the morning hours, this is where it is. It's right over us, pointed right at Northern California, right? But then it shifts down to the south and is more towards the Bay Area, towards Sacramento, by the second half of the day on Friday. This is why we expect most of the rainfall for the first half of the day on Friday, and then it starts to taper off by the second half of the day. Now look where it stays. It mainly stays to our south for Saturday and Sunday. Now I do expect a push of moisture to come through, and late in the day on Saturday, more rain coming in. But you can see really the bulk of that energy is to our south. So Sunday, I think there may be some disturbances. You can kind of see low pressure spinning and some disturbances pushing through. There will be available moisture that, especially if we see enough clearing, there could be some thunderstorms popping up as we go into Sunday. But then as this pushes to the south, look what happens. Now we're seeing the energy point right back at us. So what's happening is as this cooler air pulls down to the south, what it does is it kind of forces this and it tilts it back in our direction. Now, another thing to point out, a lot of times we talk about, even with that southwesterly flow and westerly flow, you tend to see a little bit of shadowing in the valley. That is, it goes up the mountains. Then on the back side of the mountains, the air sinks, the showers and the rain begins to dissipate, and we see less rainfall in the valley as a result. But when it's coming really mainly from the south, now you're not really seeing a lot of that shadowing, and we tend to see a bit more rainfall as a result. And of course, that's as we go into early next week. Now, this area of low pressure right here, there's a very weak tap of moisture right here, but enough that it could bring us some pretty good rainfall on Wednesday. But on top of that, this right here is a colder source of air. So that could have that impact as well. And then that shifts down to the south. Here's Christmas Day. Once again, a little bit of a tap of moisture right here. And then as we go into Friday, Saturday, still some moisture in place, still could see some showers out there, but we're going to be looking at a drier trend a few days after Christmas. So let's take you back to the next couple of days. All right, we're going to take a look at our short-range forecast model and kind of get an idea what to expect over the next few days. So as we go into tonight, as we mentioned, midnight tonight, there's the rain off to the north and west that continues to push down to the south and east. By 6 a.m., again, the widespread rainfall across the region. By midday, now we're starting to see it shift to the south. Again, pretty intense shadowing here, but I do anticipate to still see some rain even in the valley and still a little bit of light shower activity to the north. By the time we get into about 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, all right, now it's all mainly down to our south, just some stray scattered showers here and there, and it's a drier trend for the second half of the day on Friday. So as mentioned, we saw where that atmospheric river is pointed right here. We are in that drier area as we go into Saturday morning. But a swath of moisture comes in and we start to see it shift a little bit more to the north, and we're seeing that moisture push on through. So the second half of the day on Saturday, some pretty good rain coming on in. That exits off to the east here. Then what happens is the main source of moisture again is down to the south, but we still have instability over us, and we actually may see a few stray thunderstorms for parts of Northern California through the day on Sunday. Then on Monday, look where all the moisture is. Remember, we are showing it down here to the south, so we're not seeing much, at least for the first half of the day on Monday. I'd say by Monday evening, Monday night, this is going to tilt northward as we go into Tuesday, giving us more rainfall. All right, let's take a look at some of the rainfall totals of some of the estimates that we expect here. Estimates is the key word because these are not going to be exact, but I think we could see anywhere from, say, 3/4 to an inch to even upwards of an inch and a half towards the north end of the valley, but still more of that westerly, southwesterly flow, so that's why we're seeing most of the rain along the coast and in some of those higher elevations as well. Okay, so let's talk about those snow levels and the potential for them lowering and what's going to be kind of some determining factors as to just how low it gets. All right, so we've had the warmer air in place, which we're seeing right now. This ridge of high pressure has been diverting the energy over the last few days to our north. This is shifting to the south. So temperatures, as you can see, are dropping slightly, but not much. We're not going to see the snow levels drop by much as we go into the weekend. Still mainly above 6,000 feet for Saturday and Sunday. There's a pocket of cold air. Now, this colder air is diving southward. And if you watched this morning, what you would have seen is that this was a little bit, on Christmas Day, it was a little bit farther to the south, and it had cut itself off from the upper level flow, meaning that it was a pretty strong developing storm. But now we're looking at the latest forecast model data here this evening. Look what's happening. We don't have it cut off from the upper level flow. It's still strong, it's still cold, but not as cold and not as strong. So what does that tell us? Well, it tells us that the snow levels may not get as low. So that would mean somewhere around 4,500, 5,500 feet, somewhere in that range. But again, you dig this a little bit more to the south, maybe even a little bit more to the south and east, now you could be talking about snow levels down to 3,000 feet or so. So we're really going to have to watch this closely because the thing is, we're still a week away, folks. That's important for you to remember. You're watching this. Don't take this to be matter of fact. But if you are traveling Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, of course, that's the prime holiday travel days, right? If you're going to be traveling, not air travel, I'm talking about traveling here locally. I want you to pay close attention to the forecast. Keep it right here. I'm going to continue to monitor all of these moving variables that are going to determine the amount of rainfall we get and not to mention snow. So the storm door, it's wide open. We've got storm system after storm system moving on in. There's Tuesday of next week. We take you into Wednesday of next week. There you can see Wednesday, Thursday, and again, it's showing pretty low snow levels, at least lower snow levels for Christmas Day. And then Friday, more rain. And then looks like as we go into Saturday, so the weekend after Christmas, we actually may see a bit of a break. But again, I want you to remember, now we're looking out 7, 8, 9, 10 days, not to be taken to be exact. This is, again, something we'll be monitoring here very closely. Here's what we do know. We do know that there are a series of storms heading our way. The overall timing, the overall intensity of those storms, that's going to be changing, and we're going to be adjusting that as we go through time and get closer to the time frame as those storm systems get closer. Because some of these storms haven't even developed yet. So there's a lot that can happen between now and then. But that's what we're going to be watching here. And looking even into tomorrow, keep in mind, we've already been seeing some decent amounts of rainfall. The risk for flooding is certainly a concern, especially for the areas in yellow and a little less so for the areas in green. Now, the main concerns here with what we're looking at here is, number one, the ground is very saturated. So that means that the water is going to start to settle in low-lying areas. There's flood-prone areas on roads and other areas as well. Creeks and streams are going to start to swell up as well. And then mudslides and debris flows. That's something we'll have to watch for as well. And then Saturday, the second half of the day, we start to see that potential for more rain. You can see kind of a little bit widespread potential for some localized flooding there as well. And this is something that we're going to continue to track here, because you'll notice here, Mad River near Arcata, this is of course on the coast, you can see it's not quite anywhere near the action stage, which is about 15 feet. So that's a good sign, but we're going to have to continue to monitor as we go to Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, when we still see more rain. We may start to see this get back into the action stage. We'll see. But take a look at the latest coming in from Tehama Bridge. Look at that. The action stage is at 206.5 feet. Not quite there, are we? But it's close. It is close, folks. You can see here, forecast crest is at 206.19 feet. Again, that is just below the action stage. So again, we're starting to see signs that the ground is getting saturated. Creeks, streams, rivers, they're all going to start to swell up. So it'll be interesting to see what this trend starts looking like as we kind of go down the pike here, as we go down to Tuesday and go into Wednesday, Thursday of next week. Forecast snow totals. This is through Monday. This is their short-range forecast model. Of course, there's Lassen Peak, there's Mount Shasta, but Cedar Pass may see some snow. As you get into the darker shade of blue, about 4 inches of snow. That is accumulation of a few days. So we probably won't see any chain requirements there. I think they can stay ahead of it, and it'll probably be a fairly slushy snow, so it probably won't be too bad. And then looking out at Highway 3 on Scott Mountain Pass, most likely staying clear of snow. And the ski park, all right, maybe a little bit of snow down at the lowest elevations, but you're talking maybe a trace to a few inches at most. That would be the extent of it. But when you got snow levels at 6,000 feet and higher, it's going to be hard pressed for us to see snow. I mean, the base of the Mount Shasta Ski Park is 5,500 feet. Just a little too low for that. And if you're traveling at all over the Sierra, maybe heading out to Lake Tahoe, just note that you may run into some snow. But again, kind of the same situation here. On Highway 50, you're getting in the blues. That's about 4 to maybe 6 inches of snow in a matter of a few days. Same story here on Interstate 80. It doesn't seem to be quite as bad, but as you start heading southward and get into those higher of elevations, say 7,000, 8,000 feet, all right, now you're talking about some more substantial snow. The wind advisories, of course, that we do have out there. We also have the high wind warnings, but let's just take a look at the winds and show you the progression of that. You can see the system coming through tomorrow will bring us gusty winds for everyone. In the valley, upwards of 30 miles per hour. In the mountains, 40, maybe even 50 miles per hour. There's a look at midday on Friday. You see how that system is shifting to the south, so the winds begin to subside from northwest to southeast with the movement of that storm as it moves to the south and east. Saturday morning, winds are fairly calm, not as bad for Saturday afternoon, but yeah, we've got another round of winds kicking in here as we take you through the day on Sunday. Yeah, gusts upwards of 30 miles per hour in the valley and even to the east a little strong, although not as bad off to the west on Sunday. Taking a look at those wave heights, well, it looks like they'll still be fairly high on Friday. We may actually end up going from a small craft advisory to a warning. We'll see what the Weather Service decides to as they kind of assess the situation. But if you do need to be on a small boat, you may run into some issues there. All right, here is your neighborhood forecast, sponsored in part by Dignity Health. We've got temperatures in the low 50s for those daytime highs. Taking you out to the coast, we're going to be looking at wet weather, especially in the morning. Chances for rain begin to taper off for the second half of the day. Heaviest rain here, Del Norte, northern Humboldt. You're looking at the rain heaviest late tonight, early tomorrow morning. I'd say that by late morning, early afternoon, you're going to be mainly dry. Siskiyou County, your heaviest rainfall will be in the morning as well on Friday, and then it starts to kind of taper off as we go into the late morning and into the afternoon hours. And then, of course, after that, we're looking at more off and on rain through next week. There's a look at Modoc County here. You can see temperatures upper 40s. You're looking at the heaviest rainfall in the morning as well. Snow levels eventually may be down to about 4,000 feet. That's the early estimates on Thursday. It could be a little bit lower than that. It could be a little bit higher than that as we start getting closer to that time frame. That's a general idea right now. Temperatures in the mid to upper 40s for most of the eastern mountains. You'll probably be looking at rain here even through midday, early afternoon. Valley to the south, you could see rain. I mean, places like Chico southward, even into the evening hours, I still think you're going to see rain. And so the rain will take longer to taper off as it moves down to the south. So there's a look at your 7-day forecast for Chico. First day of winter, by the way, is on Sunday with a high of 56 degrees. Now, again, you'll look at this, you see a lot of rain on the map here. This is not going to be a washout. We're not talking about steady rainfall for days on end. That's not going to be the case here. We are going to see some breaks in there, and some days will be much heavier rain than others. Taking a look into the north, temperatures in the low 50s for those daytime highs. And your 7-day forecast for Redding, those temperatures in the low 50s on average for the next 7 days. And there you can see off and on rain. All right, that's a look at your evening update. I'll have more tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. and live on Coffee with Krueger at 6:30. Have yourselves a great night.
When you see flashing lights, someone's life depends on us.
And while we're out helping crash victims, we need your help to keep us safe.
Move over, slow down, it's the law, it protects everyone.
Our crews are out here every day, keeping the roads safe for you and your family.
We're often the last ones on scene, and we want to make it home safe too.
Protect those who protect you, slow down and move over.